My wife of 9 years cheated and got pregnant, so I divorced her after seeking revenge. I'm a 31-year-old male who has been together with my wife, a 34-year-old female, for 9 years, married for 4. We have 2 children, a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. I adopted our oldest about 4 years ago, but have been part of his life since he was 1.5. All the puke, stepping on Legos, riding bikes, that's my boy. Last year, in January, my wife started a part-time job serving at night and began going out with her co-workers to local bars or their houses 1 to 3 times a week after work. Sometimes she would be out for an hour or two after closing time, other times until 3:00 a.m. She also had another part-time job during the day for 4 to 5 hours. I worked a 50-hour work week at a remote job which was much more flexible. I took the kids to and from school, helped with homework and class projects, and carried most of the load for their sports or doctor's appointments. We shared these tasks, but I had more flexibility. I also worked on my side business at night after bedtimes, which I built from the ground up. I'm proud of it. It's my passion and dream. During late spring and early summer, my wife started working more at the night serving job and less at her day job, which meant she was frequenting the bars and going out with her co-workers more. I voiced my concerns quite a bit, but I was always met with, "The kids are already asleep. I'm just going out with my co-workers." I would suggest activities we could do: games, painting, hanging out, things you'd want to do with your wife. But it seemed more convenient for her to just hang out with the people she was already with. Fast forward a few months toward the end of summer, there were more late nights, new friends I'd never met, and schedule changes. My wife came to me saying, "Hey, I'm developing a schoolgirl crush on one of my co-workers. I feel silly about it, and there's nothing to worry about. I just wanted to make you aware. We'll call the co-worker Fred. Feeling secure in my marriage, I told her something along the lines of, 'Thank you for being honest. You work with him.' I approached it with compassion, probably a chunk of naivety. I told her it was silly, but it was all okay, and I trusted her. I even joked, 'Go get coffee with the guy. You work with him a lot anyway. Maybe you'll see that the crush is silly and shake it off.' Boy, was I wrong. Fast forward a month or so. The same going out to bars behavior continued. I was dropping off and picking up the kids, cooking dinners, and doing bedtimes alone. I got let go from my day job, which had allowed me the freedom to take care of the kids. I decided to put more effort into my business and went full-time, making about the same as my old job, sometimes even more. I was ecstatic, but working hard day and night to keep the bills paid. Everything had been split 60-40, with me paying a bit more. During our relationship, she desperately wanted me to pay for everything so she could stay home. One month, she was going to visit her friend on the West Coast for a week. Everything seemed normal, but when she came back from the trip, I felt something was a little off. I noticed she was texting one of her old exes again. She hadn't talked to this guy for years, and it was becoming a constant thing. I confronted her about it, and she said she met him on her trip. At this point, I was definitely concerned and questioned how that trip really went. I'd never gone through her phone, but one day I had a gut feeling and looked through it. I found out she cheated on me with one of her girlfriend's friends, a guy she just met for a day or two. I saw texts between them discussing what they did and how great it was. She was loving the praise and attention from this guy. I also found a text thread where she was planning a hotel night with Fred that same week she came back from the trip. If one hookup wasn't enough, she wanted two. She planned to tell me she was too drunk at her girlfriend's house party to drive home, so she had to stay the night. There were also more texts with other guys about wanting to hang out or meet up for drinks. At that point, I felt struck like I'd been hit by a train dragged through hot lava. I was absolutely enraged and in utter disbelief. If you're wondering, our sex life had been amazing in the beginning, but the last 3 years of our relationship I would have to beg for sex and was lucky to get it 1 to 2 times a month. I married a girl with a matching sex drive, which was fairly high, but hers decreased a lot after our second child. I was the only one initiating and trying to be sexy, showing that I wanted her in that way. When I saw her next, I confronted her. She seemed shocked that I found out and was pissed that I went through her phone. Later, I found out there was more I missed too on Snapchat. She didn't cry right away or act how I expected. She just looked sad and shocked. It took a few days for me to see her break down, realizing she probably messed up the marriage forever. I tried to sort through all the pain, hurt, betrayal, confusion, hatred, and love. It was a rocky few weeks mentally. Depression started to kick in. But that was my wife. I told her not to stay at her friend's. Let's try to work this out. I hated her for the betrayal, but I loved her for everything else we'd been through. We even slept in the same bed that night. Was this trauma bonding? The next part happened within a few weeks from when I found out in July to August. All hell broke loose. I will take some blame here because my mental state was compromised and I was not functioning as a human. I was broken, or at least that's how it felt. We decided to do a test run of an open relationship, a stupid move that sounded good on paper. We made rules and agreements, and she went on a date with Fred. I tried to be supportive and open to the idea. Who knows, it might work out for both of us. But then she came home and told me about the night. It was a simple date with him and a group of friends. I realized right then that I would never have time to chase another girl, raise kids, and build my business. I was drowning looking for something to make sense. One night, I asked her to hang out with me besides watching television, maybe helping me with a menial task that would take an hour. No, she wasn't into it. She'd rather watch television. I snapped. I felt the care and love disappear. The depression and numbness overwhelmed me. I felt like Anakin turning into Darth Vader, vengeful, filled with hatred. I felt the poison of revenge engulf me. I had worked 2 jobs for 5 years, trying my best to provide as a young father. I adopted her son, signed papers to always be responsible for another man's child, and loved him forever. But how could she do this to me? Life didn't seem real anymore. I hopped on Tinder and found the easiest girl and planned a possible hookup. I skipped a chunk of the rules and agreements of the open relationship. I wasn't honest about my intentions for the night. I met the Tinder girl at a bar and hit it off a bit. We went to a secluded place and hooked up. My wife had my location on and brought the kids out at 2 a.m. to catch me in the act. Who brings their kids out at 2 a.m. into unknown situations? Absolute insanity. She hit me multiple times and tried to beat me. I didn't touch her or fight back. I was dazed and in shock. My wife made me drive the girl I met back to her car with my kids and her in the back seat. Nice move, right? Let's traumatize the kids. She made me sleep in a hotel for a few nights, threw all my stuff all over the house, threatened to destroy my business gear, screamed, punched, and threw everything at me. In my head, I thought, what was I thinking? But I also realized that when she cheated on me, I was pissed but calm and reasonable. We slept in the same bed. Now, I felt like I was acting out like a child. I was ashamed of what I had done, what I became. After that, I realized I couldn't keep doing this. It hurt way too much. The relationship we had was gone. I was living in a nightmare, like a horror film. I couldn't stand being in the same house as her, even looking at her knowing I'd have to leave. I was so sad thinking about my family being torn apart, but I decided it was time to leave. We separated, and I found an apartment to rent. I decided to seek therapy for my anger and depression, taking accountability for my actions. I still love my wife deeply, but I can't keep feeling this way. I'm angry with myself for not seeing this sooner, for ignoring the signs. I've come to terms that she may have been unhappy in the marriage, and maybe I wasn't doing enough to show her how much I loved her. I'm still trying to process everything and figure out what to do moving forward. I miss my kids, but I want to be a better person for them and for myself. I hope that one day my wife can forgive me too. Update 1. As the leaves began to turn and fall, I found myself in a different headspace. The chaos of the past months settled into a routine that felt almost comforting. Co-parenting with my ex-wife had become more manageable. We established a system that prioritized our children's well-being, working together to ensure they felt secure and loved. Family therapy had played a significant role in this shift. It forced us to communicate openly and address the underlying issues that had caused so much turmoil. The kids thrived amidst the changes, their laughter filling the house as we enjoyed simple moments together, movie nights, baking cookies, and weekend outings to the park. I found joy in these small rituals, a stark contrast to the uncertainty of the previous year. During this time, I focused on myself as well. I committed to therapy and began to explore my own feelings deeply. It wasn't just about healing from the betrayal, it was about rediscovering who I was outside of the relationship. I dove into my work, pouring my energy into my business, which had steadily grown. Each small success felt like a victory, a reminder that I was capable of rebuilding my life. But amidst the healing, I felt the weight of loneliness creeping in. I missed the companionship of having someone to share life with. I hesitated to open myself up to the idea of dating again, fearing the potential for heartbreak. However, as fate would have it, I met someone unexpectedly at a local community event. She was warm and genuine, and we connected over shared interests. Our conversations flowed easily, and she seemed to understand the complexities of my situation. It felt refreshing, yet I was cautious. I didn't want to rush into anything without being fully ready. As the winter holidays approached, I felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I wanted to ensure the season was joyful for my kids, especially since their world had changed so much. We planned a small holiday gathering, and I made it a priority to create new traditions, ones that would bring us closer and offer stability. Update 2. Fast forward to spring, and life had shifted once more. The new relationship blossomed slowly and beautifully. We took our time, sharing our stories and learning about each other's lives. It was different this time. It felt rooted in mutual respect and understanding. I was careful to communicate my boundaries and expectations, and she reciprocated with honesty. Co-parenting continued to improve. My ex-wife and I navigated the complexities of shared parenting with a newfound respect for each other. We made decisions collaboratively, ensuring our children felt supported and loved. Their happiness became our shared priority, and I could see how the stability in our interactions positively impacted them. In my own life, I began to realize that healing wasn't linear. There were moments of sadness where memories would creep in and remind me of the pain. But rather than dwelling on it, I learned to acknowledge those feelings and let them pass. Therapy equipped me with tools to process my emotions without letting them overwhelm me. As spring unfolded, I found joy in new beginnings. The kids were thriving, enjoying their activities and friendships. I took them on small adventures, exploring local parks and nature trails. These moments became precious, and I cherished the bond we were strengthening. My new partner met the kids gradually, and it felt right. She respected their space and approached the situation with care, never rushing or pushing. Their connection grew naturally, adding another layer of warmth to our lives. Looking back, I realized how far I had faced the storm of betrayal and emerged stronger, learning valuable lessons about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of boundaries. As summer approached, I felt a sense of hope and anticipation for the future. The journey wasn't without its challenges, but I was committed to nurturing the love I had found with my children, my ex-wife. I learned to embrace the complexity of relationships and the beauty of human connection, knowing that every day was an opportunity to write a new chapter. In this phase of my life, I felt empowered. I was no longer defined by my past, but instead by the strength I had cultivated through adversity. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it one day at a time.